Hi y'all, welcome to my shop. If you only enjoy turning kiln-dried lumber, you probably quit watching this video. But we as woodturners enjoy turning green wood because number one, it's readily available. It's available in species that you can't get in kiln-dried lumber. But there are some issues with drying green wood you need to understand, and that's dealing with the pith. If you leave the pith in a piece, it can cause serious cracking while you're turning and while it's drying. So I want to show you in this video how you can deal with the pith. Why worry about the pith anyway? Well, pith wood is juvenile wood, and as a result it tends to it's not very strong, and it tends to cause cracking. Unlike hardwood and sapwood, juvenile wood's primary purpose initially is to grow vertically and sprout a few leaves, and to be flexible in the wind. Even if it's sprouting branches, the trick is for it to grow very fast horizontally, and it just does not have much strength. Once real wood cells forms around the pith enough to start providing strength, the pith isn't needed, except at the growing end where you're still feeding some growth of branches or leaves. Once real wood begins to grow around the pith to start providing strength, the pith isn't needed anymore. Nature isn't much on wasting energy, so once the pith served its purpose, it croaks. So the pith is dead, it's soft, and porous as hell. It's very sponge-like. There's water in the hardwood, sapwood, and the pith. Any guess which one's going to dry out the fastest? You're right, the pith. As it gives up water to the atmosphere, it draws water from the adjacent wood cells like a wick. When dry, it has no strength at all. Okay, here's a shot of my completed urn. It doesn't have any finish on it, although the top's got one coat of Minwax antique oil, my favorite finish. And it's looking pretty good. There's only one problem. I came down to my shop today, and you can see it just split wide open. So I think the lessons learned, let me see if I can focus in on this a little bit. I did not make the bottom a uniform thickness. It was too thick and too heavy, which tended to force the split. I should have controlled the drying a little bit more before I put the collar in. I think what happened, maybe the collar, that might have been the coup de grace, it started shrinking a little bit at the collar. So, back to the drawing board. More practice. Sometimes you get the bear, sometimes the bear gets you. Sometimes you turn and get a beautiful object and some experience. Sometimes you just get some experience. Okay, here's a piece of ash which has got very prominent grain growth. You can see there's already some cracking here, but it turns out that's fairly superficial. I've also got a little bit of a crack here. I think when I cut back at probably a couple of inches, that'll probably disappear. But I do, if I turn the bowl, I've got to eliminate that pith, because that's where cracking tends to start. Let me show you some more examples of cracking around the pith. Here's a piece of mesquite, and it's got a spider where the pith just disintegrated. But we've got radial cracks out, making a lot of this not really useful. Here's a piece of mystery wood that cracked, and I turned the rim too close to the pith. I should have taken it down some. In addition, I didn't have a uniform wall thickness that made it worse. Here's an example of sweet gum, which I've found is a difficult species to dry. Again, the pith was, the rim is too close to the pith. I didn't turn it away far enough, and I got a severe crack. I can salvage some of this by turning the bowl down to here, but I've wasted a good portion of what would be a large bowl blank as a result of not taking it down just a little bit further. So how do we deal with pith? Way number one, eliminate it. Here's an example. When you're cutting a bowl blank, let's say we've got a tree, and here's the pith in the center. It's a little bit oval, so we're going to figure out how to best cut the bowl blank. So we're going to say, okay,
This would be a possible bowl blank. This would be a possible bowl blank, and we cut away from the pith. Depending on the size of the tree, the larger the tree, the further away you're going to need to get from the pith. So this could be a bowl blank, and it's not close to the pith at all. Same thing on this side. Now, the part in the middle, we're going to eliminate that by cutting it out, but that leaves us here to the side maybe a couple of large spindle blanks as we saw through here and saw through here. And those spindle blanks are going to be useful for any number of spindle turning projects, including boxes. This part in the middle, we just throw away that. That's useless. Just throw away that square in the middle. Maybe it's firewood. Next way to deal with it is feature it. Making a feature is shown in this this hollow form I turned, where I laced this split coming from the pith and call this this piece of work, it's only a flesh wound. Third way, similar, is make a focal point. An example of that is this hollow form with star cracks in it. Fourth way, turn it thin. As shown in this small hollow form.
Here's some more examples where we leave the pith in, such as this potpourri bowl where it was allowed to move. Same as this kitchen caddy of cherry, where there's just room for it to move as it dries and changes. Small bark projects out of branches tend not to be a problem. An example is this podlet where we made sure the pith did not go through the stem and turned it thin, and it worked fine. Or an example of this small ornament from a branch. Or these small mushrooms. And some woods I've found just very stable if they're dried carefully, such as Bradford pear and dogwood in these projects shown here. The box of Bradford pear, a box of dogwood, and even this sphere out of Bradford pear.
So those are examples of when we leave the pith in. When do you not leave the pith in? Never when it's close to the rim of a bowl. It will always crack. Generally, you turn past the pith anytime you've already started getting cracking at the pith. And we think of the pith normally as going up the middle of the tree, but it's also going through the middle of branches. Another example of when you would not leave the pith in it is, here is an example where a branch was coming out and the pith maintained itself intact, but because of the pith, even though it maintained it stayed intact, it led to very serious deformation as it shrunk unevenly in that pith area, making this chalice which needed to be round, being a rather oblong, almost rectangular type of shape. So on your next greenwood project, think about how the pith's going to affect it. Either leave it in or turn the pith out of it. As always, I welcome your comments. Leave them in the below. If you enjoyed this video, you might be interested in the one I've got here on this playlist I've got on processing wood for woodturners. Y'all stay safe. Come on back here.